Greetings, fellow barbarians. It is I, Alan Odinson, and this is the Barbarian Lounge podcast. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me today. Got a pretty good show lined up for you as always, but first off, let's get a little bit of that housekeeping out of the way. Our website is thebarbarianlounge.com. Go there and check it out. We got some new articles up under our article section that I urge you to check out. Many of those written by past guests that we've had on the show. Some of those written by yours truly. Go there, check them out, spread them around. You know, that's the best way to put out seeds that grow into the fruit that produces the people we need here at the Barbarian Lounge. Also, while you're there on the barbarianlounge.com, I urge you to check out that shop in our store there. So you click on that store. I don't remember if it's a store or shop button, but it's right next to the articles. It shouldn't be difficult to find. So you click on that, and you'll have two options, or you'll have two items there that we've got listed. I'm currently looking at some new items to add in there as well. If there's some things you would like to see, please feel free to message me and let me know, because I've got a few things in mind, but we're working to get those at a cost-effective way for our listeners. But while you're there in the shop, you can pick up one of our, or several of our, Thuggy strangulation cords. As you know, here at the Barbarian Lounge, our goal is to make strangulation great again, and I cannot think of a better way to do that than with one of our Thuggy strangulation cords. If you guys have seen some of the videos that I put up, which I'm going to be putting up some more of those here in the very near future. Right now, there's kind of a sickness bug that swept through my school, so we're trying to get everybody good and well before I start choking them for everyone to see. You guys know I've done a lot of the strangulation videos on the dummy there, but some people wanted to see it with a live person, and luckily enough, I've got some pretty tough students, and they're willing to go on camera and get choked. So, but go there and pick up one of those Thuggy strangulation cords. We've sold several of them to some of our people across the pond over there in occupied territory, a land where their leaders have forgotten them, forsaken them, and opened the door to invaders to roll in and push them out of their cities, and to the point where a lot of these people, they're disarmed by their country. They're forgotten by their country, and there's there's hordes of invaders rolling through the towns. They've taken over, they've occupied certain territories there, and it's just continuing to spread. So needless to say, we have some people that are looking for means to protect themselves that can be a little more covert, something they can wear in the open, and the Thuggy strangulation cord seems to be one of those items that has been chosen as the weapon of choice. For our fellows across the pond, some of you may say, well, they may say something when it gets shipped here. You do the buying, you let Odinson worry about how it gets to you, okay? I will get it there, my friends. Don't worry about that. So go there, pick up a Thuggy strangulation cords, all of those made by yours truly, right here in-house, and every purchase goes to support the broadcast. Another way you can support the broadcast is by clicking on that donate button. When you click on that donate button, you'll have two options, one of which is a one-time PayPal donation. No explanation needed, is exactly as it sounds. You click on it, you make one-time PayPal donation. We have several of our listeners that utilize that function, and let me tell you, all of those donations are so appreciated. No matter the amount. Maybe you don't have a lot to offer. That's fine. Every little bit helps this show because it all adds up in the process, all right? The other option that you have is by clicking on that Patreon link. By clicking on that Patreon link, that will take you to our Patreon page, which that is our members page. If you don't know how Patreon works, basically you make a donation, a per-show donation. A lot of people are doing $2 donations. The minimum amount is $1 that you can do. But we do a total of 8 shows per month. So if you do the minimum of $1, well, it costs you $8 a month to support the broadcast. You may be saying to yourself, well, wait a second, Odinson, you only do 4 shows a month. It's because you're not a member. By becoming a member, you will gain access to 4 exclusive broadcasts that are only available to our members. That's right. 4 exclusive broadcasts where I try to keep it as educational as I possibly can. We're actually going to be doing a series coming up here in the next week or so. Excuse me, guys. I'm going to be doing a series coming up in the next week or so It's probably going to be about a month-long series, but I want to break down a lot of the different elements over this particular subject. It's going to be based on preparedness and survival. Start giving people kind of some measuring sticks to go by. And I like to do these little theme shows like every now and then for our members broadcast, because my whole goal with the members broadcast is to help build a network and expand and get people ready. And you might say, well, ready for what? Not ready for what? Ready. Okay? So go there, become a member. You also will gain access to our complete archives going all the way back to episode 1. Also the complete archives of members-only broadcast. I mean, it's a win-win situation there, guys. You're supporting the show, and you're keeping shows like this on the air, and you're getting stuff in return. I'm not just here. That's why I set it up on a monthly basis. I set it up on a monthly basis, so I have to work in order. I'm not just grabbing a year-long membership or whatever, a 6-month membership. It's month by month, and it requires me to put in the effort to give you the content that you deserve. So become a member, support the broadcast, and every little bit's going to be helping, guys. Sponsors, Odinson Archery, traditional bows made from non-traditional materials. If you ever wanted to get into the world of archery, Odinson Archery is the way to go. Many of the big businesses out there in the archery world, they got a stranglehold, and they've had a stranglehold in the industry for a long time. Odinson Archery, from a small business approach, a guerrilla mindset, has slowly risen up the ranks, and now we are definitely pushing and knocking on the doors of the big businesses out there, and that is only through the our loyal customer base. We've sold bows all over the world to people all across, and one of the things you'll find, one of the big things you'll find that greatly differentiates Odinson Archery from other big businesses is the customer service aspect. Being an archer, when I have somebody that contacts me and they want a I had a thing where a guy was wanting some strings from me, and I said, tell me the length of the string you want. So he sends me the length, and I'm looking at the length, and I'm like, that can't be right. So I spent a good bit of time online analyzing to get him the correct string length he wants. Any other big business company would just send you the length you want, and they're like, oh, this isn't right. They'd have been like, oh, well, sorry, can't help you. So, the customer service aspect is a big thing. And let's be honest, folks, we need to start supporting small business. We need to start supporting people out there who are doing good work. And every single purchase you make at Odinson Archery not only gets you some amazing gear, world famous gear, but it also helps support the broadcast as well. Also, you can check the Barbarian Lounge out at ucy.tv. Go over there. ucy.tv is awesome enough to carry our broadcasts as well as upload all the shows to YouTube for us, which is phenomenal. They are greatly appreciated for that. And I urge you to go there, check them out, as well as check out a lot of the other shows on ucy.tv. They have a lot of stuff there. A lot of really good podcasters out there who, quite frankly, need your support as well. I've told people numerous times, podcasting, believe it or not, don't let Joe Rogan fool you. Podcasting is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not even a get-rich-slow scheme, all right? It is built of people who have a passion to deliver information and talk about things that need to be talked about. We're talking about things on this show that a lot of people in the mainstream media and even some of the alternative media, there's a lot of Baghdad Bobs. If you don't know who Baghdad Bob is, go back and listen to a few shows. There's a lot of Baghdad Bobs out there in the alternative media world, too, that are feeding you pure bullshit propaganda. That's not the goal here at the Barbarian Lounge. We keep things real. We're going to keep it real. We're going to call a spade a spade. We're going to call something out if it is wrong, and that is what we do here. So if you want to get in the fight, if you want to support good radio, support good shows, support your local podcasters, man. If there's a show you like, you need to offer them some sort of support, because in this fight, you can only fight for so long before you need backup, before you need support, and the support system is what keeps us alive. So we were under attack twice last year, and I have no doubt that it will probably happen again. But luckily, as a matter of fact, they have attempted already, but the members, the funds that come in from the members allowed me to upgrade my security system, and we kept the enemy back. So We need your support, guys. Everybody, all these shows out there, man. A lot of people just like the information and get it, and that's cool if that's what you're going to do, but every little bit can absolutely help support the show. So, check out UCY.tv, support the Barbarian Lounge, and if you want to keep shows like this on the air, that is how you're going to do it. Alrighty, folks. Well, let me start the show off here real quick with just a side note, just for me personally. I talked to the members about this already, but just a side note. If you guys listened a few episodes ago, I think it was, I don't remember what number. It might have been episode 85 or something like that. But it was back towards the end of December. I interviewed a longtime friend of mine, a brother, if you will, William Whitecrow. It was the episode on the Real X-Files with William Whitecrow. Well, a few days ago, William Whitecrow passed away. And, it was kind of a sudden thing. If you listen to the show, man, he's always full of life. He was a good man, a shaman, a teacher. He was the guy that I could talk to when there was no one else to talk to. And there were some things that, quite frankly, that I only felt comfortable talking to him about. And, I was blessed to have his acquaintance, and, he passed very suddenly, and, my condolences go out to his family. He definitely left a mark on this planet. And, whether you agree or disagree with the stuff he was talking about, the fact of the matter is he was a good man, and he's helped a lot of people in his time here on this planet. And I guess his mission was over with. And he decided it was time to go to the other side, and that's what he did. So rest in power, William Whitecrow, my brother. And when I see you on the other side, first drink's on me, man. So go back and listen to that show too. I'm lucky enough to have 2 interviews with him. I had the one interview with the Real X-Files, and I had another interview that was actually the on Tribe from him, which was phenomenal. But if you're not a member, you don't have access to that. So become a member and you can listen to it. I think that's all. I want to get to the main content here. So the thing that's going around right now, so we've been talking about the whole gun control issue and all this, and you can talk about that and you're blue in the face, and we'll probably still be talking about it at some point in time, because I think it's important to always mind these things, keep in mind all these things that are going on. But I wanted to discuss the issue that came out regarding the police officer, the resource officer, who was at the scene of the shooting and chose to not do anything. So at the heart of this, I want to talk about why he didn't do anything, okay? And for a lot of people, it would seem very, 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 very obvious as to why he didn't do anything. But I want to talk about it a little more because it spreads out to a lot of different things that we discuss here. So basically the gist of the matter is that this guy was a resource officer, an armed resource officer at the school. The shooting happened. The shooting lasted for 6 minutes. And for 4 of those minutes, I believe it might have been a little longer than 4 of those minutes. I believe it was 4 of those minutes that he was stationed outside the door, did not go in. Now, I've seen a lot of people post things like, well, the Supreme Court ruled that the law enforcement officers are not required by law to save you and all these things. And it's like, okay, well, and then some people were saying, well, he probably was waiting for backup, and I don't know a lot of law enforcement officers would have went in for backup. He followed protocols. He was waiting for backup. And I'm going to tell you straight up right here that that's bullshit. After Columbine, see, that's one of the things that happened with Columbine. The policy before Columbine was to wait for SWAT to show up and wait for backup to show up. And they changed that right after Columbine. So it's been the policy for quite a while. The policy is now that because it used to be they were required to wait. The policy is now that an officer has no requirement to wait whatsoever, and he is to charge in there and try and neutralize the shooter immediately. Now, there's a lot of different reasons for this. One is, let's be honest, he's basically signed on to do this, right? It is his job. I don't care whether or not the Supreme Court has ruled that you don't have to do this or not. It's bullshit. Your job is to protect and serve. Protect and serve. There was a lot of people in that fucking building that needed some protecting at the time. All right? And, that's fine if he was, student resources officer, they're kind of the low-hanging fruit anyway. It doesn't matter to me. You took a job to do this. That would be like, when I was working as security or working as a bouncer in a place and a fight broke out, and I'm like, those are some big guys. I don't want to engage them, right? I'm just going to let the fight happen. No, that's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. My job there is to protect everyone there. So there's no ruling that says that they have to wait. Matter of fact, they're supposed to get in there as soon as possible. Now, the reason that they're supposed to get in there as soon as possible is that statistically, and this is easily verified, statistically, as soon as an active shooter finds resistance, what do they usually do? They usually eat a bullet, right? They usually kill themselves because that's the one final act of power that they're taking in that situation. They want to have all the power in the situation, and when they don't want to give somebody the ability to kill them, they want to even have the power to take their own life. So usually, even if you're not shooting them, even if you're not hitting them with rounds, as soon as they feel resistance, most of the time they will off themselves. So that is why the goal is to fucking get in there as quick as possible and engage the guy. So, and there's a lot of theories about this. A lot of people have spoke out regarding it. I've talked to different law enforcement officers and about it, and protocol and yada yada yada. But some people say, well, all the guy had was a pistol and this kid had a rifle, or whatever. Here's the fact of the matter. This is why the guy did not go in there. The guy did not go in there because he lacked willingness. That was the tool he was missing. He had all the other tools, but he was lacking a willingness. He lacked the ability to have the mindset to go in there and possibly face death on that day. That was what he was missing. A pistol will drop a guy with a rifle just the same way as a rifle will drop a guy with a pistol. You may have to be a little more precise, but fact of the matter is, he chose to do nothing. And then we find out later that there were 4 other officers out there who chose to do nothing as well. All of them were lacking willingness. They lacked the mindset to get in there and get in the fight. And it's funny because I had made the comment about it, that for the most part, if you go back several episodes to my episode on courage, on my episode regarding courage was defined as the willingness to act, to have a willingness to act. These individuals had no willingness whatsoever, no mindset towards what needed to be done. They were lacking in courage, which means they were a coward. Is this Broward County or Coward County? What the hell, right? I mean, these guys sat outside and let kids die. And, you could say, well, they weren't trained for this. And you know what? And you know what? You're absolutely right. In a lot of instances, they're not trained for this. Well, they only had such and such ability, and they were, most officers don't even shoot their gun more than once at qualifying a year. You're right. They don't. Why is that? I know several law enforcement officers that have come to me that I have helped learn to shoot correctly. I mean, and I've been trained, I've had training, and for me to have to work with these guys on gun handling, and their job is they're more likely to have to use their gun than I am on a daily basis. What is going on here, people? And we see this a lot. You know, this willingness, and I'm not here just to rag on these particular cops. It's just the perfect example of a lack of mindset. These guys had, you know, probably in their head 100 times, maybe they hadn't thought about it. I don't know. But I guarantee if you'd have asked these guys after the last active shooting that happened wherever in the U.S., you know, would you run in there? Yeah, man, I'd run right in there. But faced with the prospect of possibly dying, that is when your true self is revealed. That is when the true self of your actual level of willingness actually comes out. And a lot of people will have theories about what they'll do, but you never fucking know what you're going to do until it's put before you. And in this situation, we had 5 officers crumble under the pressure. On a personal standpoint, myself, I've been in situations before, and I've know some people. Matter of fact, some of the guests we've had on this show have been in these situations. Been in these situations where there was only 2 options: live or die. And I'm telling you, when you have been confronted with the possibility of not doing anything and possibly dying or maybe living, in most of the situations, not doing anything, cowering, hiding, you'll probably live. Versus doing something and the possibility of death being very, very high, it exposes you. And I've seen a lot of hard-ass motherfuckers, man. Guys that just, oh man, they'll puff their chest out and act like they're Billy Badass, but when the time comes for action, they crumble. Their minds go crazy. They become super emotional. They're not thinking about what needs to happen. And you see that willingness to die just fade. I've been in situations before where it was the situation was it was a situation with a firearm on me, and I had, the only option I had was to act or die. That was it. Those are 2 options. And, you know, I always urge people to really, really, truly consider these things long before. What do you need to find out what you're willing to die for? What is worth your life? What is worth it? You know, when I was faced with that situation and the prospect was there, you know, and it's different for a lot of different people. You know, with me, this is one of the things that I value about being a follower of Asatru. Asatru is very much a warrior culture. If you don't know what Asatru is, it's following the Norse pantheon. It's very much a warrior culture. And for me, in the situation that I was in a situation where I was going to die next to some brothers. That was the situation I was in. You know, I could have lost my life. They could have lost theirs as well. But I made that choice. We made that choice together. And I figured at that time, you know, if there was ever, most of us, especially in civilian life, most of us are not going to be granted a glorious death. Most of us don't have that option. Most of us, you know, most people end up withering away in their fucking bed or dying of a heart attack when they go to get up out the chair or something. And the prospect of a glorious death to me, a death next to my brothers, a death standing up for something that was absolutely right at the time, that was a good way to go for me. Most of us are not granted that option. We do not have the chance for a good death. And I look at these guys that were here at the school, and I just wonder, like, what do you guys expect? How do you guys expect you'll be greeted in the next life? Now, maybe they're atheists. I don't know. I doubt it. But how do you guys expect you're going to be met? I mean, are you going to be met by those kids that you didn't save? Are you going to be welcomed as a warrior? No. But I'm sorry, you'll be met as a coward. You'll be met as you'll be in the same classification as all the rest of the cowards. And it's funny that these guys, I think it's actually a positive thing that that this information came out. I know it's a very, very nasty mark on the law enforcement, but I think it's important because this information came out. It's going to force a lot of these guys to really start evaluating their mindset and evaluate exactly where they stand. What is worth their life? Is saving some kids worth your life? Well, that's kind of up to you at the same time. Do you actually feel it's worth it? Because a lot of people will talk shit, but at the end of the day, if you've never been put in that situation, you have to ask yourself, are you really going to stand up for it? But I think it's definitely a positive thing that this came out into light, because now this attitude, this weak mindset has been exposed to everybody, and everybody's being forced to reevaluate things, and it's being mocked. The whole Broward County, they're calling them Coward County. So now you're going to start seeing a change in people. You're going to start seeing people's mindset change regarding these different, this different view of how we approach situations of danger, situations where we may die in the process. So I think this is a good lesson for us to really start looking at, because you have to think about with these guys too. What is their reputation going to consist of? I mean, if you look at throughout the history, the people who have been labeled as cowards in the past, right? The one that comes to my name is what was his name? The guy that shot Wild Bill Hickok. The guy that shot Wild Bill Hickok, McCall. I think his name was John McCall. I know his last name was McCall 100% though. McCall is notoriously known forever as a coward. He was the guy that snuck up behind one of the greatest gunfighters ever and shot him in the back of the head. And you can say, well, that's good strategy because he would have lost the fight. Well, that's fine. You can look at it that way if you wish. But the fact of the matter is the guy was forever, ever labeled as a coward. Robert Ford, the guy that I think his name was Robert Ford, the guy that shot Jesse James, same thing. So, cowards are going to do what cowards are going to do. And I think it's important for us to start really mapping out this level of willingness in our minds, right? Even though most of us aren't able to put ourselves in a situation where we're going to die, there's certain things that we can do from a mindset standpoint that will put us in that situation where we can start really answering a lot of these questions. I've talked to people in the past a lot on the show as well, talking about setting up scenarios in your head. Setting up scenarios and going ahead and understanding exactly what you're willing to die for. What are you willing, what is at the top of your list of worth dying for? Is your family worth dying for? For most of us, yes. For some people, not so much. What's the ultimate coward? The ultimate coward that I remember, William Petit. William Petit, if you don't know that story, William Petit was a guy who, I want to say he worked with a banking company. I'm not 100%. I don't have the information here in front of me. I'm completely going just off of memory here. But William Petit had a family. I believe he had a wife and I know he had a wife and a daughter. I don't remember if he had a second daughter or not, but I know wife and daughter for sure. And basically he was a victim of a home invasion. And William Petit was tied up in his home, and he was left downstairs. His wife and daughter were taken upstairs. Where the gentleman who had invaded the home, so basically they left William downstairs. And the gentleman that invaded the home were upstairs with the wife and daughter and proceeded to rape and kill them. At some point during all this, William Petit got himself free from his bondage. William Petit freed himself from his bondage, and his choice was to escape from the house. and run next door and call the police. Well, at this point in time, obviously no knock on the law enforcement. It is what it is. It takes them a while to get there, right? So William Petit left, called law enforcement, and the wife and daughter were killed, and I believe the house was set on fire, if I remember correctly. That was basically how it played out, and he ended up losing his entire family, and I think the guys got captured or whatever. But William Petit, in his mind, never, ever, ever would he probably have said that he would leave his family there. But the man did. Because when the time come, the only thing he was thinking about was self-preservation. So for some people, saving their family's not at the top of the list. And William Petit, it's funny, none of us would ever know his name. But the only context that name is ever remembered in is in that of a coward. And you may have said to yourself, well, the guy didn't have a weapon. First off, that's his fault, for one. For two, don't tell me there's not a weapon in your house. For three, do you know what happens when you get free from your bondage? When you have the option of escaping your home and trying to, and calling the cops versus going upstairs and saving your wife and child and possibly dying in the process, you know what your choice should be there? To die. Upstairs. That's your choice. At least that's my choice. Maybe that's not your choice. Maybe you choose the route of Billy Petit. And hey, that's all up to you. If you want to live with that the rest of your life, that's fine. I don't even know how that man, he's still alive. I don't know how the guy even gets up every day and looks himself in the mirror knowing what a piece of shit he is. And I would say the same thing for the cops there in at Broward County. The same way. You guys are cowards. You have to look at yourself every single day and know that you could have stopped it. So for some people, their family's not worth dying for. For me, it is. For some people, their jobs are worth dying for. And that's kind of a toss-up there. Because it's kind of one of those where, what sort of connection do you have with the people that you're there? I know some people that are in the security field that when they go into work, these people they work with, for the most part, you are a tribe. You are a tribe during that time. And your job as the warrior of that tribe is to protect them from any outside threats. And there's a lot of people that take that shit very, very seriously. Some people do not. It's up to you to make that decision. But see, what happens is that a lot of people never remotely even consider these things. Some people never even consider the fact that they may die. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to tackle. That's one of the great things about the, when I used to talk to William Whitecrow, rest in power, brother. When I used to talk to him, we had these conversations about death and honor and the purpose of the warrior in the tribe. We had these conversations. That's one of the real strengths that the shaman has, is he's experienced death many, many times before the day comes, till it's a seamless transition for them. But most people, we're so disconnected from it. We're so unattached to the idea that our time here is finite. What do you want to leave behind? What sort of reputation are you going to leave behind? Because when you go, you're not taking shit with you except your reputation. That's the only thing that goes with you, is your reputation. The legacy of a coward? Is that what you want to take with you? There's no other options. You can't take your riches. Your life, guess what? You lost it anyway. Because believe it or not, there's actually some things that are worse than death. And that's going to vary for different people. For me, the idea of being labeled a coward for the rest of my days is damn near death worthy for me. It is. And for some people, hey, if that's the way you want to roll, that's fine. But understand, when you have the job, when your job, and that's basically what law enforcement officers are, and you can probably talk to most Leos and they'll tell you this, when they supposedly have the job of sheepdog, right? They have the job of sheepdog, meaning your job is to protect the flock at all costs, and you fail at that. There's only one word for you. I see it a lot of times, even in aspects of where physical harm may come. You'll see people, they will grasp on to this mindset of a lack of willingness. They don't have the willingness to act. I was having a conversation with some people regarding, basically incidents that happened in like a movie theater, right? They were saying, that if a guy is talking, would you tell him to be quiet? And most people were like, no, I wouldn't say anything because it may escalate to this, and they just have this whole long drawn out thing of things that may happen. When at the same time, like me, I'm like, yeah, I absolutely say so. I do say something. I say something every time. And yes, a very few times it's almost led to an altercation, but most of these people are just mouths. They don't actually want to fight. Ask them to step outside. If they don't step outside, you pulled their bitch card and they're not gonna do anything. But I listen to all these people who are supposed to be martial artists lacking a willingness to act. It's like, I asked them, I said, what the hell are you even training for? What are you even doing? Like, you shouldn't even be at a martial arts school. You should be there. You should practice how quickly you can dial 911 or how quickly you can run downstairs and grab an usher. Most people that you find that lack a level of willingness are waiting for somebody with willingness, with a level of willingness, a level of courage to show up on their behalf. That's the way most of these Antifa people are. They lack willingness, therefore they seek the state to do the courageous act on their behalf. I see it a lot of times, man. It's crazy. It's crazy that the supposed sheepdogs, and they'll wear their little sheepdog patches and shit, that there's still some out there that won't act. And I'm sure, we've got a lot of law enforcement people that listen to this show, and I know the people that listen to this show don't have this problem, but I guarantee you a lot of you work with people that do. I guarantee you. And I think it's important to out them too. Because the fact of the matter is if they lack a willingness to go save some children, do you think they'll have the willingness to save you? Say your partner or the people that are supposed to be watching your back don't have the willingness to get out there and actually protect you when need be, or are they going to save their own ass? They're probably going to save their own ass. Leave you high and dry. I've seen that happen too. People that I thought had my back, and then when the shit kicked off, I turn around, they're gone. That's why it's important to choose your brothers and choose your allies very, very wisely. So maybe you question your level of willingness. And I think it would be wise for a lot of people to do so. To ask themselves, one, the question of what they're willing to die for one. But also ask the question of, am I even ready? Do I have my shit squared away enough that if I had to fight, that I would be willing to do so and die in the process? You may find yourself lacking. You may. I think a lot of people that were real with themselves probably would find themselves lacking at the start of the process. However, there is an inoculation that you can take. There is an inoculation to this level of weak mindset that you can actually inject yourself with to keep yourself ready for the fight. And let's talk a little bit about those. One is to put yourself in situations of extreme danger. Now, I'm not talking about bungee jumping. I'm not talking about swimming with sharks. I'm not talking about engaging in gunfights in the middle of downtown Chicago. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about putting yourselves in positions and putting yourself in places to where you have to ask yourself the question, am I truly able to handle this? And simple ways that we can do this would be, one, taking a martial arts class. And I'm not talking about taking, some fucking taekwondo or some hipster jiu-jitsu class, where everyone's smiling and having fun. I'm talking about a tough, grimy, rough house type of school. A school that fights, that forces you to engage your adrenaline if you're not ready. I think about, I've talked about in the past when the whole thing was going on with George Zimmerman and the shooting with Trayvon Martin, that a lot of people kept throwing around the whole idea of, well, he shot Trayvon. Trayvon was unarmed. And, I always talk about, when it comes to shootings like this, justify use of deadly force. Would a reasonable person believe they were in serious bodily, the danger of serious bodily injury or death? And I'm going to tell you straight up, if you've never had somebody on top of you, like mounted on top of you, and you on your back, and then raining punches down on you, if you've never had that happen, you have no understanding whatsoever of what that guy was feeling. Because I assure you that if you don't believe that, you come here, you come to my school, I'll put on some nice heavy 14-ounce gloves, you lay down your back, I'll get on top of you and start punching you. Let me know when you've had enough. Okay? If you've never experienced that before, a reasonable person would believe they were going to die. If you have experienced it, through repetition, through understanding how to deal with these sorts of issues, well, surprise, surprise, you'll come out on the other side relatively unscathed. Now, we do get fucked up every now and then, but this is also part of the inoculation process, to take a hit and keep on coming. It's one of the reasons why when I took the fight at Tactical Response, one of the things they told us straight up, and I'm not sure if it's the same way in all their other classes, but I would be willing to bet 100% that this is the case. When it's time to fight, you keep fighting. There's no stopping. So in the simulation, if you get if there's 3 guys with AKs and all 3 of them empty their guns into you, with their sim guns into you, you keep fighting like you're fucking Superman. Like those bullets bounced right off of you. Because that's the key to the mindset training. That's the key to the mindset training. We train that we don't stop fighting. You know when we stop fighting? When we die. That's when we stop fighting. And there's so many people that have never put themselves in that sort of situation, to where they actually have to test. Because let me tell you, if you've ever been shot with a sim gun, I've talked to some guys that have actually gotten shot actually been shot with a firearm, and comparing it to a sim gun, they're like, man, it is very, very similar. Like the feeling, the sound, everything is very, very similar. So if you've ever got shot up with a sim gun, that's about as close as you can get to taking live rounds. Which those rounds will actually bust you open if you've got open skin. I've got several scars on my arm from the fight, because I decided to wear a t-shirt even though it was not recommended. But I wanted to feel the pain, because the pain inoculated me to the situation. The pain adds to it. Getting shot and seeing actual blood coming off of you after you've been hit. To me, that had to happen. Because if I can fight through that, well, doing pretty good. This mindset of being able to continuously stay in the fight no matter what happens will build this level of courage in you. It'll build your willingness to act in situations like this. Especially, and this is another aspect of inoculation, especially if you know how to handle yourself post-contact with whatever danger may be out there that you have to face. What I mean by post-contact, I mean by understanding how, let's say you're involved in a shooting with, let's say you're a concealed carry holder and you go to get robbed and you have to use your firearm to protect yourself and you drop the guy, right? Someone who is not inoculated to this sort of mindset training, they wouldn't know how to be calm when they're talking to 911. They wouldn't know what to say to 911. They wouldn't know exactly how to handle the stressors that are going on around them. They wouldn't know to scan for other threats. They wouldn't know to top off their firearm. These are things that they're not ready for. But if you're willing to put yourself in the situation, you're going to come out better on the other side. Also, your willingness is going to be a lot higher if you know how to handle yourself should something happen. How many of you, if you get shot in the femoral artery and you're squirting blood, how many of you know how to apply a tourniquet? Oh, you know how to apply a tourniquet? That's great. Do you keep your tourniquet on you? Is it in your pocket? Is it on you right now? Is it? Oh, I'll just use my belt. Really? Let me know statistically how well a belt works for saving lives. Also, let me know how you're going to apply your belt and keep fighting. Because, remember, we keep fighting until we die. You see, I don't know about you guys, but I train to apply my, I train to shoot. I will sim in my head or however way that I took a shot to leg, arm, whatever, and I will apply a tourniquet and keep fucking fighting. That's the way I train. How many of you are trained the same way? How many of you, if you've got a sucking chest wound, how many of you are ready to self-treat? Oh, you can't do that. Fuck no, you cannot, right? You're wrong. You're wrong. You can. You absolutely can. It's not easy if you're not ready for it. So we have to start taking steps to inoculate ourselves to these things. Now, do you think those officers would have been a lot more willing to go into that fight had they sought training outside of firing their firearm once a year for qualifications? Do you think they would have had more readiness if they were prepared to apply self-first aid if necessary? Do you think they would have had readiness what if the guy had body armor on? Oh, if he had body armor, what are we going to do? If you've trained for it, if you know how to handle it, it's not that big a deal. Because believe it or not, there's a lot more than just center mass in shooting. So these guys lacked a level of willingness because they lacked a level of preparedness. They were not ready for what was coming to them. Most of them had never dreamt in a million years there would be an active shooter. I will tell you straight up, 100%, that every time I leave the house, I am ready for an active shooter. I'm not expecting an active shooter, but should it happen, the thought has crossed my mind. That's why most people, when they see the EDC gear that I carry, and I'm not talking about the shit in my vehicle, I'm talking about the shit on my person, most people are just like, dude, you're paranoid. No, I'm not paranoid. You know why I'm not paranoid? Because I've got all this shit, and I know how to use it. That's the difference. That's what most people don't get. If anything can definitely be learned, if anything can be learned from this whole incident that happened down there, the lack of willingness in the officers to engage the suspect, one is we can start working on our own willingness, but two is another thing that I have been harping on since show one, is that you are your own first responder. Do not wait for law enforcement to show up, because they may be coming, but it's going to take a while. But surprise, surprise, just because law enforcement shows up, you still may be the best trained person in the room with a gun. You may be. So we have to start working on these things. I cannot stress this enough about how people need to take the mindset of being their own first responder. You know, in an age of terrorist attacks, in an age of active shooters, school shooters, whatever, there's no excuse whatsoever to not be prepared. There's not. Because at some point we hear people saying, oh, you know, we're always expecting these things to happen. Are you? Because if you're expecting and you're still not doing anything, then you really got a problem on your hands. Much bigger problem than guns. I can tell you that right now. In the end, you will be your own first responder. Whether you're somebody that carries a gun or not, there's no excuse for you not to have some medical training. No excuse. I know guys, and I train my students this well too, and yes, I put them through the paces with sim guns, in case you're wondering. I train them to have the mindset of we fight all the time. And the ones that can't carry a weapon or won't carry a weapon, there's still some that won't carry a weapon. And, you know, I'm working on them. I still urge them to at least have your medical gear on you, to be able to self-treat and be able to treat others. Because even if the fight, just because you're not actually engaging in the firefight does not mean you can't get in the fight by start saving lives. I mean, maybe you're one of those people that's like, fuck these people. I'm just getting out there and saving myself. Well, props to you. If that's your mindset, then hey, okay, well, that's you. That's you. But for some people, that's not the case. I tend to find that most people that have that mindset, that I'm not going to have any faith whatsoever that they're going to take that self-preservation and turn it away from themselves and actually save me. They call themselves my brother. I can tell you right now, I've been confronted with the situation of I can run away and live, or I can save my brother and possibly die. And I chose to save my brother, and we both lived. So, I mean, these are things that I've confronted. So I know where my mindset's at. And the only reason that I was able to do those things is because I had inoculated myself to these things. I had prepared myself. I prepared my mind. I was ready for the fight. You can be too. I am an average Joe Blow citizen just like everybody else. I put my pants on one leg at a time, strap my belt on, but there's things that I have done to up my odds, up my readiness, up my preparedness. At the end of the day, man, I know for a fact that I am my own first responder. I'm the guy that when shit goes down, people call me and say, what do I do? And it's not, and like I said, it's not because I'm special in any way, shape, or form. It's because I've been willing to put in the time. And I urge you to do the same, guys. I urge you to do the same. I implore you, because we're at a time right now that's a very, very tricky spot. It's a very, very slippery slope. And there's not a whole lot in life that we can control. We can't control whether or not, people are trying to control guns, and people are trying to control mental health and control this, control that. You cannot control these things. The only thing 100% that you can control is your response, your individual response to it. How you will respond. Are you going to be a victim, or are you going to be a volunteer? That choice is 100% up to you. 100% up to you. But the thing is if you choose not to be a volunteer, if you choose not to be a volunteer, you also are going to have to make the move to volunteer for something different for yourself. You're going to have to spend money on training. You're going to have to get some quality gear. There's just things you're going to have to do. Some concessions you are going to have to make to accept the fact that you need to be better prepared. When you do these things, your willingness to act will go higher. And like I said, you may not give a shit about anybody else out there. And if that's your thing, fuck, have at it. But will your lack of preparedness, how are you going to justify that if there is an active shooter? And or hell, let's just say you're going to the fucking mall. Let's say you're going to the mall and some idiot gangbanger comes driving by and wants to get, or some kid wants to get in a gang, and he drives by and he shoots your wife in the chest and drives off real quick. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Are you ready? Do you have the willingness to act? Maybe you have the willingness to act, but you don't have the gear to do it. What are you gonna do? You don't have the training. What are you gonna do? I'll tell you what you're gonna do. You're gonna sit right there and you're gonna watch your wife die in front of you. You ready for that? Maybe it's your kid. You ready for that? People talk about arming the teachers in the schools, and, there's different opinions about that and whether they should or shouldn't. Every fucking teacher should receive basic medical training on how to treat a gunshot wound. That should be part of their training. And I guarantee you there's schools out there training schools that would give it to them free or at an extremely discounted cost in order to save lives. There's no reason you can't train your kids to apply medical. But the fact of the matter is everybody wants to push this whole thing of well, fuck those guys. I don't really, if I'm in a mall and there's an active shooter, I'm getting out the door. That's great. Fuck it, have at it if that's what you want to do. But what happens if it's your kid that gets shot in there? Or maybe like an incident that I just recently heard about was a guy walking down the road with his wife, his new wife, only been married a couple weeks, and some gangbangers walk up to him, a gang initiation, and they shot him in the fucking chest and walked away. Well, he shot a couple of them too. Or you think he shot one of them, but they lived. He died in his wife's arms. Tragic situation. Tragic situation. The unfortunate thing is now that wife has that image in her head forever. She wasn't ready. She wasn't prepared to apply medical if need be. It's a tragic example, but it's reality. The only matters of reality that we can dictate and we can actually manipulate in some way, shape, or form is our own preparedness for what is coming. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, be prepared because it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Be ready, be ready. And people think that I'm preparing for some fucking zombie apocalypse or the end of days or the solar flare or whatever. No, I'm ready. I am prepared for whatever the hell comes. When we have natural disasters here, the Odinson household's taken care of. We have somebody that wants to cause trouble around here, the Odinson household is taken care of. Because we made the necessary steps, the long-term game, to be ready for it. Our willingness is there solely based on the fact of our preparedness. It's time for our law enforcement to start doing the same. You guys should be held to a higher standard of readiness, a higher standard of willingness. I know a lot of you guys are, and a lot of you guys would have fucking ended that thing if you'd have been there. I know it 100%. But the ones that are not, and you know them, I know you know them, they need to be called out. In the same way that you would call out a corrupt cop, these guys need to be called out as well for their lack of willingness, the lack of training. The only marks they got on their gun are fucking holster marks. Alright guys, I'm going to wrap this show up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it as always. Hopefully this starts to formulate a bit of thoughts in your mind about how to deal with things. You know, maybe reevaluate your level of training, right? And really truly ask yourself these questions. Like a lot of people, oh, I'm ready. Are you? Are you? Because, I don't know, you start drilling these guys and it's like, man, you're asking them questions. That's one of the reasons I like the conflicted game, is it offers a lot of different, mindset training tools. So we'll have to play some conflicted on here real soon. I want to get a guest on, and I'm going to start kind of messing with my guests and having them answer a conflicted question every now and then. So don't tell them. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap this show up. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as well. Get out there. Remember, you are your own first responder at the end of the day, folks. And your level of willingness is going to be dictated by your level of preparedness. So that's it, guys. Wrapping it up here. So now, my fellow barbarians, this broadcast of the Barbarian Lounge is closed.
Question everything. Intelligent radio for intelligent people. UCY.TV